What if I told you the supposedly heart-healthy oil sitting in your kitchen right now is fundamentally altering the chemical structure of your human body fat?
Yeah, it is a massive blind spot for most people.
Right. I mean, you might be eating the big salads, grilling your chicken, avoiding sugar, and you still have this lingering, unexplained fatigue. Or, maybe your joints just feel inexplicably puffy when you wake up.
Exactly. And people just assume their metabolism is permanently broken or that fatigue is just a normal part of getting older.
Yeah, they just write it off.
Right. Without realizing they're continually flooding their cells with structural materials that promote that exact dysfunction.
It's wild. So today's deep dive is an exploration of a comprehensive research script from Wellness Geeks. And our mission today is to investigate the invisible culprit behind all that metabolic chaos. We're looking at the foundational cooking oils you probably use, every single day.
We are talking about seed oils. And the emerging nutritional science is painting a very clear picture of how these everyday ingredients are quietly driving low-grade systemic inflammation.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because for decades, I mean, we've been actively trained to look for those little health halos on bottles of cooking oil, right?
Oh, absolutely, the little heart stamp.
Yeah, the heart stamp. So to figure out why these oils are causing problems, we first need to define what they are and really how they're made, because they represent a massive historical anomaly in the human diet.
They really do. The main culprits we're targeting today are sunflower oil, soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil, and cottonseed oil.
The big five.
Right. For thousands of years, humans relied on traditional fats, butter, ghee, olive oil, animal tallows. Those fats have been a constant in human evolution.
Right, they're ancient.
Exactly. Seed oils, by contrast, are entirely an invention of 20th century industrial food processing. Before the early 1900s, they essentially, they didn't exist in our food supply.
Which is crazy to think about. I mean, think about squeezing an olive or churning milk. That is a physical, intuitive process. You can literally press an olive between your fingers and see the oil coat your skin.
Right. It's immediate.
Yeah. But if you hold a hard kernel of corn or a tiny piece of cottonseed, you can't just press oil out of that. Trying to extract fat from those sources requires like a massive chemical factory.
The industrial process is intense. To force oil out of those hard seeds, manufacturers don't just use high-pressure mechanical pressing.
Yeah.
No, they wash the seed mash in chemical solvents, most commonly a petroleum-derived solvent called hexane, just to extract the maximum yield.
Wait, hexane?
Yeah.
Like an industrial chemical?
Yes, exactly. And then the oil has to be subjected to incredibly high heat to burn off that solvent.
Oh, wow.
And finally, they do a chemical deodorizing process to remove the rancid smell that the high heat created in the first place.
So by the time it reaches that clear plastic bottle on the grocery store shelf, it has been completely stripped of any natural antioxidants or vitamins it originally had.
Gone. Completely gone. But, the manufacturing process is really just the setup. The actual biochemical structure of the oil itself is what sets off the alarm bells inside our cells.
Right, the chemistry of it.
Yeah, that structural chemistry is the core of the problem. These oils are predominantly composed of linoleic acid,
Okay, linoleic acid.
which is a highly concentrated polyunsaturated omega-6 fatty acid. Now, linoleic acid is an essential fat. Your body cannot manufacture it from scratch, so you do need trace amounts from food to survive.
Trace amounts being the key word there.
Exactly. The danger is the unprecedented volume we consume today. Ancestrally, human diets maintained a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids at roughly 1 to 1, or, maybe up to 4 to 1.
But the data shows we are nowhere near that baseline anymore. Today, populations eating a modern processed diet sit at a staggering 15 to 1, sometimes even up to 25 to 1 in favor of omega-6.
It's a massive shift.
That's not just a minor dietary drift.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a fundamental transformation of the raw chemical building blocks we are feeding ourselves every time we eat.
And because these are polyunsaturated fats, they behave very differently than traditional fats under pressure.
Like when we cook with them.
Specifically when we apply heat, yeah. So saturated fats, like butter or coconut oil, they have no double bonds in their carbon chains. They are structurally solid and chemically stable.
Okay.
Monounsaturated fats, like olive oil, have one double bond, making them moderately stable. But polyunsaturated fats have multiple double bonds.
I like to think of it this way. Saturated fats are like a solid brick wall. Heat and light just bounce right off.
Right.
But polyunsaturated fats are more like a wooden fence with several missing planks. When you pour them into a hot frying pan, the heat and oxygen rush straight through those structural gaps and literally splinter the molecular structure apart.
That is a perfect visualization of oxidation. When you heat sunflower or soybean oil to standard frying temperatures, which is around 180 degrees Celsius, those vulnerable double bonds shatter.
Just break apart.
Yeah, and this process produces a dangerous cascade of degraded compounds. Most notably, a highly reactive aldehyde called 4-hydroxynonenal, or 4-HNE.
The numbers on this are terrifying. Heated sunflower oil produces 5 times more 4-HNE than olive oil heated to the exact same temperature for the same amount of time.
5 times the amount
Yeah.
of a compound that studies directly linked to cellular damage. And it doesn't stop at 4-HNE either. The heat generates lipid peroxides.
What are those?
They're essentially unstable, highly reactive molecules that bounce around, triggering chain reactions of oxidative damage inside your tissues.
Oh, that sounds awful.
And if that oil is reused like the vats in a restaurant deep fryer, the concentration of those toxic degradation products multiplies exponentially.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, well, I don't eat deep-fried food.
Right, I eat clean.
Exactly. You know, I eat a clean diet. I order the big salad. I use a light vinaigrette. Maybe I have some roasted almonds as a snack.
Yeah.
I want to look at the story of Maria, one of the case studies from the research. She is the poster child for this exact lifestyle. She's 38, walks daily, actively buys health foods, and cooks her chicken in sunflower oil because she thought it was better for her heart.
Maria's situation is so common, it highlights one of the biggest blind spots in modern nutrition.
Totally.
She was suffering from afternoon energy crashes, creeping weight gain, and this strange, unexplained puffiness in her knees. She thought she was eating clean, but her diet was actually completely saturated with invisible seed oils.
Because even if you aren't hitting the drive-thru, those healthy-looking bottle dressings are almost entirely soybean or canola oil.
Precisely. And the marinade on a restaurant's grilled chicken breasts.
Oh, yeah.
Usually a cheap seed oil blend to keep costs down. Even those raw-looking roasted nuts at the health food store are frequently roasted in pools of sunflower or cottonseed oil.
So it's everywhere.
It really is. And this chronic invisible consumption takes a massive toll on the digestive system. Research published in the journal Gut found a direct link between high consumption of omega-6 polyunsaturated fats and increased intestinal permeability.
Leaky gut. So Marie is essentially compromising her gut barrier with her healthy salad dressing.
Exactly.
But let's look at the actual mechanism there. How does eating this broken, oxidized fat turn into a puffy knee or, brain fog?
Okay, so once you digest these oils, that excess linoleic acid doesn't just pass through you. It enters your bloodstream and integrates into your cell membrane.
It becomes part of you.
Yes. Through a specific enzymatic pathway, your body takes that linoleic acid and converts it into another fatty acid called arachidonic acid.
Okay, arachidonic acid.
Right. And arachidonic acid then serves as the direct precursor, like the raw material, for producing pro-inflammatory signaling molecules called eosinoids.
So you are basically giving your immune system endless ammunition to fire off inflammatory signals.
You are flooding the system. Eicosanoids are chemical messengers that tell your body to create swelling, pain, and immune responses.
Wow.
When you have too much linoleic acid, your body overproduces these signals. This isn't a fringe theory, by the way. This is the basic biochemical pathway taught in medical schools.
I was looking at Dr. Peter Elias's work on human fat tissue over the last half-century, and it proves we are physically holding on to this ammunition.
Yeah, his data is striking.
He found that in the 1960s, linoleic acid made up about 9% of human body fat. By the early 2000s, it had spiked to roughly 22%.
That's a massive jump.
It's a 130% increase in linoleic acid concentration inside our own bodies. We were literally constructed out of different fat molecules than our grandparents were.
We really are.
I have to admit, hearing this makes me a bit angry on behalf of everyone listening. I mean, we've been actively trained for 40 years to look for those little heart-healthy logos on canola oil bottles.
Oh, I know. It's frustrating.
To find out that very bottle might be supplying the building blocks for systemic inflammation is completely backward to what my doctor told me in the 90s. If our bodies are actively turning these oils into inflammatory triggers, How did they get that stamp of approval in the first place?
Well, it stems from a very narrow, historically entrenched fixation on total cholesterol.
Just the overall number.
Yeah. For decades, the entire justification for pushing seed oils was that replacing saturated animal fats with polyunsaturated vegetable oils reliably lowers your total LDL cholesterol number.
And technically, the blood test proved that was true, right?
Technically, yes.
But the medical community missed the forest for the trees, because not all LDL behaves the same way in the body.
Exactly. Lowering total LDL is only a fraction of the story. Cardiovascular risk isn't driven simply by the presence of LDL particles floating in your blood. It is driven by oxidized LDL.
There's that word again, oxidation.
Right. When an LDL particle becomes oxidized, it becomes highly reactive, irritating the lining of your blood vessels and driving the formation of plaque.
Okay, I see where this is going.
And the oxidation products generated by metabolizing and heating seed oils, those lipid peroxides we talked about earlier, actively increase the rate of LDL oxidation.
So you might artificially drop your total cholesterol number, but you are actively weaponizing the cholesterol that remains.
Weaponizing is a great way to put it.
This brings me to Raj, the second case study.
Yeah.
He is a 45-year-old software engineer, works out 4 times a week, normal weight. His diet is mostly food court stir fries cooked in commercial vegetable oil.
Very common lifestyle for busy people.
Yeah. He felt fine, but his blood work showed borderline metabolic syndrome and persistently elevated C-reactive protein, which is a major marker for heart disease risk.
Raj's blood work is a classic manifestation of AXLAMs,
Excellent.
oxidized linoleic acid metabolites.
Oh, wow.
The high heat of the commercial wokes combined with the seed oils created massive amounts of these oxidized compounds. What really cemented this danger was the detective work done by Dr. Chris Ramsden at the National Institute on Aging. He realized we needed to look past the surface-level cholesterol numbers and examine long-term outcomes.
Dr. Ramsden went hunting for the original, unpublished data from massive dietary experiments in the 60s and 70s, like the Minnesota Coronary Experiment and the Sydney Diet Heart Study.
Yeah.
These were randomized controlled trials designed to prove conclusively that replacing butter with vegetable oils would prevent heart attacks.
That was the goal.
Wait, if they successfully completed the studies but deliberately suppressed the data for decades, I'm guessing it didn't show the miracle cure they were hoping for. Did swapping saturated fat for seed oils actually make things worse for those patients?
It made things significantly worse. When Dr. Ramsden and his team finally recovered the raw, dusty data tapes and reanalyzed them, the results were entirely contradictory to the public health narrative.
Unbelievable.
The groups who replaced saturated fat with seed oils indeed lowered their cholesterol. However, they experienced higher rates of cardiovascular events and death.
Higher rates of death.
Yes. The reanalysis revealed an 18% increased risk of death for every 30 milligram per deciliter drop in serum cholesterol in the seed oil group.
So, lower cholesterol, but a higher chance of dying. That is a staggering paradigm shift.
It really is.
And the metabolic chaos doesn't stop at the heart. There's a profound study out of UC San Diego, led by Professor Poonamjot Deol, looking at what linoleic acid does to our hunger and fat storage.
Oh, that study is revolutionary. They fed mice a diet artificially high in linoleic acid, and they observed severe disruption to the animal's endocannabinoid system.
But how does a fat in my diet actually hijack my hunger signals? Walk us through the mechanism there.
So your endocannabinoid system produces natural chemical signals that regulate appetite, pain, and metabolism. You can think of them as the body's natural munchie chemicals.
Okay, munchies, got it.
Normally, they spike when you actually need calories and drop when you are full. Linoleic acid acts like a rogue signal. It artificially ramps up the production of these specific endocannabinoids.
Wait, so it's tricking the brain.
Exactly. So your brain is constantly screaming that you're starving, driving you to consume more food and store more body fat, regardless of how many calories you have actually eaten.
So what does this all mean for us? I mean, we know the chemistry. We see how it drives everything from Maria's puffy knees to Raj's elevated C-reactive protein to the artificial hunger signals in those mice.
Yeah.
How do we navigate a modern food system that is practically built on a foundation of cheap seed oil? We need an antidote.
The primary antidote is what the researchers call the kitchen audit. You have to take physical control of the fats in your environment.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1 is identifying the big 5 sunflower, soybean, canola, corn, and cottonseed oil, and physically removing them from your daily cooking rotation.
Just throw them out.
Right. And step 2 is hunting down the hidden traps in your pantry.
The ultra-processed foods,
Mm.
the boxed crackers, the instant noodles. The biscuits. Because those are basically just refined carbohydrates that have been deep fried or preserved in these industrial oils.
Exactly. Once you clear the slate, you rebuild with biochemically stable fats.
Okay, what do we use instead?
For low to medium heat cooking, extra virgin olive oil is the absolute gold standard. It's primarily composed of oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat that resists oxidation.
Plus, it brings its own active defense system, right? A fascinating study in the journal Nature demonstrated that high-quality extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal.
Yes, oleocanthal.
And oleocanthal works on the exact same anti-inflammatory enzymatic pathways in the body as ibuprofen. You are essentially cooking with a natural anti-inflammatory medicine.
It actively suppresses the inflammatory cascade.
That's incredible.
But if you want to sear a steak or perform a heavy high-heat sauté, olive oil will still eventually smoke and degrade. For high heat, you need fats with zero double bonds.
Saturated fats.
Right. Saturated fats like ghee, grass-fed butter, and virgin coconut oil are structurally impenetrable to heat. They will not splinter and create toxic aldehydes.
What about avocado oil?
Avocado oil is also a phenomenal tool for searing because its smoke point is exceptionally high and its fatty acid profile is highly stable.
I want to push back on one thing, though, because I hear the listener asking this.
Sure.
If sunflower oil and soybean oil are the primary villains, what about eating actual sunflower seeds or, ordering a bowl of edamame? Do we have to fear the whole foods too?
Absolutely not. And researchers from Harvard Medical School emphasize this exact distinction through the concept of the whole food matrix.
Whole food matrix?
Yeah. When you eat a raw walnut, a flax seed, or a handful of sunflower seeds, you are indeed consuming some omega-6 linoleic acid. However, nature packages that fat inside a matrix of dense dietary fiber, natural antioxidants, and protective polyphenols.
So the fiber slows down the digestion, and the antioxidants act as a shield to prevent the fat from oxidizing inside your body.
You've got it.
The danger only arises when an industrial factory forcibly strips the oil away from all its natural armor, blasts it with heat, and bottles it.
The extraction is the poison. When you eat the whole food, your body can process the fat safely.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the most actionable takeaways for me is the salad dressing hack.
Oh, the vinaigrette.
Yeah. Taking 2 minutes to whisk together extra virgin olive oil, fresh lemon juice, and a pinch of salt completely removes one of the biggest, sneakiest sources of soybean oil from your entire week.
It is the highest yield shift you can make in your kitchen, but simply removing the toxic oils is only half the battle.
There's more.
Yeah, you also have to actively rebalance your structural chemistry by improving your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio.
Because they are actively fighting for dominance in our cells, right?
Yes, they compete for the exact same enzymatic pathways. If your cell membranes are rich in omega-3s, your body utilizes those fats to produce anti-inflammatory signaling molecules.
Actively cooling down the systemic fire.
Exactly. And the most efficient way to supply those omega-3s is through cold water fatty fish. Eating wild-caught salmon, sardines, mackerel, or anchovies 2 to 3 times a week provides massive doses of EPA and DHA.
Which are the active, highly potent forms of omega-3.
You got it.
We also need to talk about damage control. If someone listening has been cooking with canola oil and eating commercial salad dressings for decades, their tissues are likely holding onto a lot of oxidized lipids. How do we neutralize that existing damage?
Through the strategic use of polyphenol-rich foods.
Okay.
This isn't generic advice to just eat more vegetables. Studies show that specific antioxidant compounds in dark berries, high-quality green tea, turmeric combined with black pepper, and dark leafy greens act as chemical scavengers.
Oh, I like that term, chemical scavengers.
Yeah. They circulate through your bloodstream and actively neutralize the unstable lipid peroxides before they can trigger further cellular damage.
This raises an important question, though, about the timeline. I mean, we live in a culture that expects a 7-day juice cleanse to fix everything.
Right, the quick fix.
If someone listening goes into their kitchen today, throws out the canola oil, buys a great bottle of olive oil, and cooks some salmon tonight, how long does it actually take to fix their metabolism?
Well, we have to remember Dr. Elias's research on human fat tissue. This linoleic acid hasn't just passed through your stomach. It has physically integrated into the architectural structure of your cellular membranes.
So you can't just detox it.
No, you cannot sweat that out in a weekend. It takes months and sometimes a couple of years to fully turn over the fatty acid profile of your cells.
Wow. You are literally remodeling your biology one meal at a time.
It is a gradual architectural rebuild. The encouraging news is that the functional benefits appear much faster. Remember Maria and Raj?
Yeah, the case studies.
When Maria swapped her sunflower oil for olive oil and made her own dressings, the mysterious puffiness in her knees vanished within 8 weeks.
8 weeks, that's fast.
Her afternoon energy stabilized. And when Raj ditched the commercial stir fries and switched to ghee, his C-reactive protein dropped back into the normal, healthy range within 6 months.
So the inflammation markers just plummeted.
Yeah. As the active pro-inflammatory signaling quiets down, the body begins to heal very rapidly.
It is profoundly empowering to realize your health isn't just a mysterious genetic lottery. It is the direct accumulation of small daily choices.
Absolutely.
The specific chemistry of the fats you choose to put into a hot pan and the processed foods you choose to leave on the grocery store shelf dictate the chemical signals your body generates.
You shift from feeling like a helpless victim of unexplained fatigue to recognizing that you hold the reins. You have direct control over the biochemical environment of your own body.
Which leaves us with a truly wild thought to ponder as we wrap up. We discussed how the linoleic acid concentration in human body fat has increased by 130% over just the last 3 generations.
Yeah, since the 60s.
If the actual physical chemical makeup of our cellular membranes has fundamentally changed that drastically in such a microscopic evolutionary window, how might this invisible shift in our cellular structure be altering human evolution?
It's a crazy question.
Or brain function, or even our basic mood regulation in ways we haven't even begun to study yet.
That is the thrilling and slightly terrifying frontier of where nutritional science is heading. We're walking around as entirely different chemical organisms than our great-grandparents were.
It really makes you look at that clear plastic bottle of vegetable oil in a completely different light.
It really does.
So your mission for today, go audit your kitchen pantry right now, pull out the bottles, check the hidden ingredient labels on your favorite crackers, and see exactly what kind of chemistry you are about to cook your next meal in. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.